Hello. Today, another profile of an badass black woman. Doing one of these as close as I can to one per day during Black History Month. As you can hear, I've been sick for most of this month. I have a sinus infection, so I haven't always gotten here every day. But today, the absolutely incredible Fannie Barrier Williams. Let's begin with something that she wrote. She said, "The hearts of Afro American women are too warm and too large for race hatred. Long suffering has so chastened them that they are developing a special sense of sympathy for all who suffer and fail of justice." Fannie was born in New York State in 1855. She was the first black student to graduate from Brockport State Normal School, which is now SUNY Brockport. She was 15 years old when she got her degree. She went to teach at a school in Hannibal, Missouri, and was absolutely horrified at the violent racism that she saw there. So she moved to Boston to study at New England Conservatory. Sadly, many of the white students there, especially the Southern students, refused to take classes along with a black woman, and they demanded that she be expelled from the school, and so she was forced to leave. She moved to D.C. She again was teaching newly freed African Americans there. She also studied at the School of Fine Arts in D.C. and became a really well-respected painter. She was fluent in German and other languages. She got married. She moved to Chicago. And while there, she became the very first African American and the first woman to serve on the Chicago Public Library's board. She also became vice president of the Illinois Women's Alliance, where she was focused on the health and hygiene of the poor. Now, the place where she came to national attention was in 1893. It was the World's Columbian Exposition to celebrate 100 years or 200 years since Columbus. When they designed the Columbian Exposition, which is a massive global event, the organizers were not planning to represent African Americans at all. And a number of African Americans, especially black women, protested. And Fannie Barrier Williams was one of them. They eventually were able to make their protest strong enough that the organizers allowed a couple of black women to speak. Fannie Barrier Williams was one of those, and she gave a very powerful and controversial speech while she was there. She also delivered controversial speeches at the Parliament of Religions and the Women's Congress. She was the first black woman nominated to join the all-white Chicago Women's Club. While she was up for nomination, she got dozens of death threats. She was threatened in public and in private. She did not back down. She eventually became a member in 1896. She also helped create a home for low-income girls and helped found the Frederick Douglass Center in 1905, a settlement house there, which she called the Black Hull House. She was so active. I mean, literally, if you look at her activities throughout her life, I don't know how she had time for anything else. She helped found the National League of Colored Women, and then she helped create the National Association of Colored Women. In an essay that she wrote in 1900, she talked about the club movement and said, "Among white women, clubs mean the forward movement of the best women in the interest of the best womanhood. Among colored women, the club is the effort of the few competent on behalf of the many incompetent. That is to say, the club is only one of many means for the social uplift of a race. Among white women, the club is the onward movement of the already uplifted." She made fun of black men and their attempts to tackle the race problem. She talked about black men's innumerable conventions, councils, and conferences during the last 25 years have all begun with talk and ended with talk. She was the only black person chosen to deliver a eulogy for Susan B. Anthony at the Women's Suffrage Convention. She helped W.E.B. Du Bois create the NAACP. She wrote, "In 25 years, and under conditions discouraging in the extreme, thousands of our women have been educated as teachers. They have adapted themselves to the work of mentally lifting a whole race of people so eagerly and readily that they afford an apt illustration of the power of self-help." She also talked about the end of the Civil War. She said, in those great days of national exultation over the riddance of slavery and the saving of the Union, the terms freedom, equality, and citizenship were clothed with a potency that seemed capable of working miracles. But she also wrote, it's curious to observe how slight has been the advance in thought and argument over the same arguments of antebellum days. Antebellum just means before the Civil War. The women are still haunted by the old phantoms. Do you want your daughter to marry a Negro? Do you want social equality? White supremacy? These are all used in the same manner and with the same assurances of effectiveness as they were 50 years ago against the abolitionists. It is the same old fight of light against darkness and progress against caste. Prejudice resists all that tends to soften the heart and enlighten the mind. It defies logic. It has no part with charity. Humanity is not its shibboleth. It ever gropes in the dark and takes no pride in the onward sweep of the great forces of love and sympathy that inevitably blend to the controlling sentiment of the brotherhood of man. The colored women of the country have borne the burden of more misery than has ever been imposed upon womankind by a Christian nation. I highly recommend her writings. She was prolific. A lot of them are gathered in a book called The New Woman of Color. She ghost wrote books for Booker T. Washington, for Frederick Douglass. Washington did not acknowledge the fact that she'd ghost written it for her. He claimed sole authorship, saying that he relied on her and her husband for their memories, but never admitting that she actually wrote his book. She said, only men of moral and mental focus, of a patriotic regard for the relationship of the two races, can be of real service as ministers in the South. Less theology and more of human brotherhood, less declamation and more common sense and love for truth must be the qualifications of the new ministry that shall yet save the race from the evils of false teaching. She also said, let the women be not discouraged. They are helping to make history for a race that has no history. Fannie Berry Williams died in her hometown of Brockport, New York in 1944. Just an absolutely incredible woman. Have a wonderful day, and as always, please be kind.